Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now, on with the show.
Hello and welcome to the SuperConnectivity Podcast. I am your host, Charlie Esser, and with me as always, the fantastic...
Phil Parrott.
I knew he was there. Yeah, so you probably have just listened to our super epic, just before Secret Wars Marvel Roundup. And if you haven't, go back and listen to it, because man, it was a great one. And now we're going to talk about SuperConnectivity. And you know what? In honor of how much we talked about comic books, I want to talk about the new Daredevil TV show.
All right.
So, for those of you who don't know, we record this on Fridays usually, and of course, Daredevil premiered on Friday. And even though we have jobs, we did make the point to watch that first episode, and man, what a doozy it was. Phil, here's my question to you, because I don't think either one of us has watched episode 2 yet.
No.
Does Karen Page know that Matt Murdock is Daredevil now?
I don't know. I think they're supposed to keep you guessing.
Because essentially, I gotta say, how could she not? Because she's like, he talked. So I think, well, okay, if he doesn't talk, she's not really seeing his face. She doesn't know. But I figure as soon as he opens his mouth, it's like, hey, you sound pretty much like my lawyer.
Yeah, he didn't really change his voice that much. But I guess there's always the old excuse. Well, I'm blind. How could I be Daredevil?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a good excuse. It's the old Clark Kent, oh, Clark Kent, he's a bumbling fool. How could he be Superman? But, at the same time, gives us pause. But fantastic story. For those of you who haven't seen Netflix's Daredevil, please go out and watch it. You won't regret it. I think what I found most interesting is, it gets into when we open it up, it is about the human cost of superhumans. Because, of course, the whole reason why Hell's Kitchen is now being snapped up for real estate is because of, presumably, the Battle of Manhattan, the Battle of New York, when Loki opened the portal, the bad guys came down, the Avengers knocked down a bunch of stuff, and now Fisk and friends are coming in, snatching up the real estate and strong-arming the opposition out and using that as cover for all their nefarious activities. Lends credence to the argument that, superheroes breed supervillains. What do you think there, Phil?
I don't know. Do you really think if there were no Avengers, wouldn't Loki have gone through with his scheme anyway?
Well, the problem with Loki's scheme in general is that, of course, it exists in a universe with superhumans. So once you have superhumans, yes, some are going to be good and some are going to be bad. Now, I guess what one could argue was that if Thor were evil, he would have strangled Loki in his crib and never, and all of these troubles never would have occurred. So that goodness is its own undoing. One could argue. Yeah. No. Obviously, regardless of whether or not you have a superhero in this universe, you're going to have villains, whether they're super or not. And of course, as one can point out, Wilson Fisk is in no way a super villain. He is simply a villain. He is simply a classic pulpy villain who, enjoys the excess of his life. And now D'Onofrio, we didn't see him, but I think we heard his voice in this episode, didn't we? When his
at the end
was talking, he was talking to him, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that sounded like D'Onofrio. So yeah, so we got our first sense of the Kingpin, and I'm really pleased with that.
They said don't say his name.
Oh yeah,
the one guy was like,
Mr. Maybe that's why they start calling him the Kingpin, because of course it's not Kingpin that we don't say, it's Wilson Fisk.
Yes,
it's the Fisk, the man above reproach, which is hey, for what it's worth, is I don't know if that's that was always sort of the thing with Fisk, is that he is a man above reproach. He's a noted industrialist. And possibly, in his own way, sort of a Gatsby. Gatsby likewise made his money in bootlegging, and perhaps Fisk himself sees himself as something of a modern day Gatsby.
Wasn't he an importer originally?
The import-export business. That's always that's always what that's a classic cover for most things, because things need to come into the country, they need to go out of the country, and if you have ships going in that way anyway, and you want to put in some cargo of white slaves, because that's when classic to open up with is party girls thrown into a container truck to be shipped off to goodness knows where, to be exploited for goodness knows what.
But in a world where you have like an Iron Man, a Thor, a Hulk, why was it so unbelievable that one man stopped 4 men just with his bare hands?
Well, because and they actually mentioned this later, as they said with the preview. It's not like they said, "Oh, he came in with he didn't come in with a hammer or a Hulk. It was just some dude." Yeah. And and at this point in the story, yes, there are Iron Men, but it wasn't an Iron Man who attacked them. Now, the closest analogy would be Captain America, but you'd know Captain America too, and they don't put Black Widow on the merchandise, so no one's thinking, oh, maybe it was Black Widow. They just put her on the merch more. Oh yeah, like the Black Widow. Yeah, that makes sense. Now I get it. Now I see who kicked your butt. It does not seem that unbelievable, but they also might be thinking that, this guy, that, the thing with when you deal with mobsters is it's very easy to say, oh, our cargo got jacked by some lone gunman, some crazy masked man came and jacked all of our stuff. And so that's why we can't pay you what we owe you. Sorry, that's not a good answer in the Mafia game. So obviously they're going to have pushback on that. But I love the fact that the Chinese lady mobster, asks, was this someone who was taking your stuff, or no? Was someone he let our people go, and that is not good for their business, obviously, because because if it was just a competitor, they know they can deal with a competitor, but just some lone nut, that's problems right here in River City. But big thumbs up.
I was going to say, we see the first 7 minutes of the law practice of Nelson and Murdoch.
Oh, yeah. And now that was one thing I had to say. It's like, okay, so they have no money. Well, obviously, I guess Foggy must come from money. And Foggy must have like a trust fund that's funding this. Because we know that Matt doesn't come from money. So how they have... The comics. Yeah. Well, yeah, that definitely was. That Foggy had the money, and that... Matt was the legal genius behind them, But see, and I actually have to think that maybe Karen does know, because when she volunteers to work for free, I got to think that's only something she would be doing if she was thinking, oh, I know I'm safe here because I know this guy is Daredevil and can protect me. Yeah, I was gonna say maybe she's attracted to Matt, but maybe because she knows he's Daredevil. Yeah, well, she could be attracted to Matt, but the fact of the matter is that, if you're on the run from the mob, I don't think, because sure, we get Fisk saying, no, there's no reason to kill her now, which I thought was great, because it really shows the pragmatism of the violence, the organization of the crime. Because no point in killing Karen Page now, because everything she knows is out there. It's a problem for us, but there's no reason to seek revenge on it. because that's not going to further my goals. It just creates one more problem that I might have to deal with someday. That, it's going to tie back to Karen Page's murder. And of course, they murder everybody else who knew about this, so it doesn't necessarily make the argument. But I guess the argument is that all those people knew something that wasn't out there yet. All the other people knew about the conspiracy to kill Karen Page. Killing Karen Page doesn't silence the conspiracy; it just makes people look deeper. So that would be why you let her live after everything that she knows is already out there. And if you think about Kingpin as a guy who's playing that three-dimensional chess, then that kind of makes sense. So they have announced that Daredevil will get a red costume eventually, which I find very interesting because right now he's in a very it's interesting because it's sort of when you first see the Daredevil, the first Daredevil story, when he puts on the costume and takes on the Daredevil persona, it is to essentially, in a Batman-esque way, because criminals are a cowardly and superstitious lot, to become this devil that haunts them. So it makes sense to me that he might take that on after someone starts calling him the Daredevil or whatever they're going to call him. And I got to assume that it's going to be the Chinese lady or maybe the Japanese mobsters. You never know, because they have demons in Japanese culture and lore too that are going to give him that name. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And I do wonder if maybe Karen Page says, you should wear red because devils wear red, not yellow and black.
In the comics, he named himself Daredevil because that's what the bullies called him as a kid when he wouldn't fight.
Yeah, well, that's that. But when he becomes a Daredevil in his first adventure, he's actually chasing down, because he doesn't actually fight the boxing promoter that got his father killed in the ring. He just chases him down till he has a heart attack and dies, which is still pretty cold. In fact, way colder than just beating the heck out of the guy and killing him. It's like, no, I'm just going to chase you relentlessly until you die. Sort of like if you ever did you ever see the film The Seven Psychopaths?
No.
Oh, there's a great thing where this guy murders and rapes this Amish girl, and after that the Amish girl's father just starts following the guy everywhere he goes. He's just standing outside his house staring at him forever until he drives the guy insane and he kills himself. Because of course he's Amish, so he's a pacifist, so he's not going to attack him, but he's going to stand there and just be this relentless image in the guy's life, reminding him of his crime until he dies. And so that's sort of that idea. But of course, because it's a comic book, you can't do that for several hours. And if Daredevil just stood around, that would be a very slow way to kill people. But chasing them down, it's the same idea, and it is just so much, in its own way, arguably so much colder than just attacking someone. To just wear them down, it's pretty cold. Though Daredevil's not wearing anyone down in this one, he is actively fighting and being the heck out of the villains. And I don't know if he killed that guy, but no, I don't think he killed him. He just severely beat him and I guess dropped him off at the police station or the newspapers with the flash drive. So
yeah, because I think he was killed in prison. I think when that everyone killed, he was one of the ones. Yeah,
so yeah, he was killed. So he dropped him at the police station with the flash drive, incriminating evidence. Not really how that kind of stuff works, but sure, why not? For right now, well, and actually all they had to do was just put him into holding, and he could still be murdered. That's because that was the whole idea. Once the data's out there, he doesn't have to go to trial, which of course is useful because there's not really much to try him on, except that he's a bad guy. Which, I guess to speak about being out cold, maybe that's always been Daredevil's thing. He knows that you can't convict these guys, but you know what? You put them in prison with a failure, they're gonna get their comeuppance from the guy on top. I don't know. But yeah, one episode down, just a great show. Really really loving it, and can't wait to see how it's going to tie into the rest of the MCU universe. As has been said, this is very tonally different than the rest of the MCU universe. Much darker, much. Although I will say Foggy's got his bit of comic relief. You know, it goes into what I always think is one of the natures of Marvel storytelling in general, was that not every story is the same. Some of the stories are dark and brooding, and some are light and fun. And what it's going to be depends a lot on what you're going to be watching. And so I think that this will fit nicely into the rest of the Marvel Universe, even though it seems tonally different right now. I think it's going to have its days when it's dark and brooding, and some days it's going to be a little lighter. And so, yeah, I'm very pleased by that. And so, yeah, can't wait to watch the rest of it. One other thing I wanted to talk about is the new Fantastic Four film coming up. They finally released a halfway interesting still. And it's The Thing. And it's The Thing rearing up to punch. And it's still not that interesting, except that it is The Thing. It's a static image, you know. And with The Thing, it's going to be, but how does he look when he moves? Does he look like, you know, a very poorly CGI'd monster, or does he move like a Ray Harryhausen thing, or does he move like an actual human being? Just releasing stills, but it was very nice. And there's what I'm going to say is that they went with The Thing and not Human Torch. Makes me wonder if this is going to be a Thing-centric story, or if they just released The Thing because that's what everyone was talking about, or maybe they released just The Thing because the Human Torch just looks so much worse. Else.
Maybe in stills.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, you know, it just seems that, you know, that's your visual character, and that they're not leading with the visual character tells me that either they don't have much for that visual character, or that the story is going to be much more Thing-centric. And as a Thing fan, I'm all down with anything that's Thing-centric. So, you know, slowly building on this Fantastic Four movie. Not, you know, they're climbing the mountain. You know, although I think it would have been better had they not built such a deep mountain for themselves to have to climb to get Marvel fans interested. But they are finally climbing that mountain to get people interested, and so that's good news on that front. And other big Marvel news is Deadpool. We've got stills coming out from the Deadpool film. And again, just to talk about marketing, and of course, same studio, Fox is doing both of these, but, you know, so much better what Ryan Reynolds is doing with Deadpool to get people interested in the Deadpool film than what they're doing with the Fantastic Four film. I mean, you know, we saw him, and yeah, he looks a little Fire Marshal Billy, but you know, that is what Deadpool looks like, you know, and I'm just so glad we're getting this. You know, I will curse the day that they cast Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern, because I knew as soon as they did that, I said, that's costing us a Deadpool film. It did for a long time, because I think that had he not done Green Lantern, Deadpool would have been out right after Wolverine Origins. Because as much as people condemn that, and it was pretty awful what they did to Deadpool in that story, they did. There is a alternate ending, an after credit scene where Deadpool breaks the fourth wall and talks to he goes shh to the audience when he picks up his head. So that was a pretty good thing. So they did leave it. They could have gone right into that from that and done a really great Deadpool film, but they didn't, and I blame that on Green Lantern, because that movie just wasn't that.
DC.
Yeah, well, DC and their movies. Yeah, well, you know, of course, Marvel had Daredevil before this, so you know, yeah, the Daredevil, the Affleck curse. I tell you, man, that's.
Oh, don't say that.
Yeah, well, you know, yeah, they're making that bed there, DC. There. But anyway, yeah, so that's what's going on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Marvel Parallel Cinematic Universe. And actually, what I'm really hoping is that if you do have Deadpool and the Fantastic Four film coming out before, I hope the Fantastic Four does a cameo in the Deadpool film. That Deadpool just breaks through that wall into those other people's movies, and you know, maybe even get a little Spider-Man in there. It'll be great. Yeah, so it's a pretty awesome thing, and man, it is almost 7:30, and here in New Jersey, where I'm shooting. And this has been a really great Super Connectivity. Did a lot less connecting in Super Connectivity. We just sort of chatted the Super Connectivity. But we did a lot of great connections in the All-New Marvel Roundup. So definitely check out the All-New Marvel Roundup if you like Super Connectivity. And we're disappointed by this week's entry. And because you'll get it all for that super long, super Patreon edition. Well, it's not a Patreon edition, but hey, we can do that for you. If you want to be a Patreon subscriber, yes, definitely, folks. Go to our Patreon account, which I don't know the website for, but listen to Enough Said. They'll tell you. And come and support our station. And if you'd like to write me and tell me I was off my game today, or tell me, oh, we loved you anyway, Charlie, you can do that at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com, or follow me on Twitter @CharlieEsser, or like our Facebook page at Super Connectivity Podcast on Facebook, as well as the All New Marvel Roundup on Facebook. That's the website, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And Phil, where can they write you? Tell you how great you are.
Or deflate my ego. NightwingPDP@gmail.com, and I'm NightwingPDP on Twitter.
And this has been Super Connectivity, folks. I've been Charlie Esser.
I've been Phil Parrott.
And we will see you on Battle.
Go watch Daredevil.
Yes. We'll connect with you later. Bye.
Bye.